Okay, now we should be live. So, welcome everybody. My name is Michael. I am from Soar Atlas, and with me here today, I actually have one of the key developers who worked on 3D mode, which we're going to be showing off. Um, Introduce yourself, David.
Yeah, hi everyone. Hope you're all well today.
Yeah. So yeah, basically what we're going to do today is just do a little live demonstration of the recently released 3D mode, which is currently on beta on soaratlas.com. I'm going to run you through a few different maps and a few different scenarios, how you can use it, what you can do to get the most out of it. And yeah, we're really curious on your feedback as well. So do please leave some comments below, and we'll try to answer them live as we go. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, David. I think the first thing that we're going to do is just go through and find our first 3D map. So here we are on the homepage of Soar. And one of the ways that you can find a 3D map is just by filtering all map types here and going to georeference map. So 3D mode works on any map that is georeferenced. The only restriction is basically very, very large maps that take up a very big portion of the map. Those aren't supported in 3D mode, but every other one should be. So majority of maps on Soar do work in 3D. And if we go down to, say, this map of Lebanon here, you can see that it actually has a view this map in 3D mode button. So any map that you see with this button, you can just click on it and we get this cool little animation. And just like that, we'll be able to view that map in 3D. And so I just want to talk about, something that's been really exciting viewing this and kind of being a part of the journey has been actually seeing, all types of maps be transformed in 3D on Soar. We've got over 1 million maps on the platform from users, from organizations, from different feeds. And it's been really exciting to view all that data and, see it in one place. But 3D mode really brings something really special to the platform because, you're able to view this elevation data from, basically anything. As you can see here, we have a GIF map that's of Lebanon. You can see the mountains and everything. And it really transforms this flat image into something way more visually engaging, way more interesting, and it lets people kind of see all these things from a new perspective. So if we back out here and we go back to the Discover tab, let's go through just some of the maps that we have on the platform and view them in 3D, because I kind of want to show first the difference that 3D really gives to these maps. So this one over here is one of the great maps by Harry Stranger. He's one of our power users that constantly uploads these vintage maps from the 90s. So this is 1964 of Egypt. And you can see over here, there's all these sort of bumps and hills over here that look really cool. Down here, you kind of got different mountainous areas as well. But being able to view this in 3D, and especially viewing a sort of retro map, a vintage map like this in 3D, is something that you don't get to kind of come across often. So we're just going to go to our high settings there. And if we kind of zoom into these mountains, you can really see them start to pop off the page. So I think this looks really incredible. It's not just a new way to visualize the existing map, but it's also just a new way to kind of understand the context a bit better. So this was a lot of work to put together the actual system of everything. Having a map be viewed in 3D and then also having, the actual textures and everything tile correctly and come together correctly has been a big journey, I'm sure. David, you definitely agree it's been a big journey getting this together.
Yeah, Michael. So probably about 6 months ago, the idea of it sort of came up. But 4 months ago was when we really started on it in earnest. The original approach we looked at just draping the actual satellite images and the actual images that we have, or maps over the top of the terrain. Obviously, that wasn't a great user experience. And then we came up with this, which is obviously, as you zoom in, you'll see the actual image itself will actually tile. So the user gets a nice experience as they're sort of traversing around the map.
Yeah, and I mean, it really works well on these types of maps that are like super high quality. Because yeah, like a lot of maps that initially this 3D mode was basically just view smaller maps or view very simple satellite imagery. And these kind of bigger maps were kind of out of the question early on, but thankfully we we're able to kind of come up with a solution and yeah, make it possible. So then you can pretty much have the exact same experience you have viewing these maps on Soar, but viewing them in 3D this time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go through and use some of the annotations tools that are in 3D mode. So one of the great things is obviously, 3D isn't just for viewing maps, it's also for creating them. And just like the tools that we have on Soar, we really want people to tell their own stories, mark up different things with information they have, and be able to create something of value to share online and share with other people. So one of the tools that we have here is the elevation marker. So if we go and place that there, you can see as we drag this tool around, we actually get a live calculation of the real terrain height. So, this is super useful to obviously measure the different heights around the area. If we go over here, let's place that there. That's 286, and then this is 767. And so just like other 3D tools, you can kind of see that they always face the camera. They're very visible and very easy to understand and super easy to just, quickly pull a marker out and then be able to visualize the height. And so you have a few options here to customize as well. So if you click on one of the markers, you have your marker color up the top. You can click different colors to change it. And then of course you can click delete to delete it. So, I've been using this a lot to just measure different mountain heights in different areas. I'm going to show off the satellite view in a bit, but it's been really fun to just kind of see different maps that, might not look as impressive in 2D mode, but then in 3D mode, you really get a full sense of the terrain and everything around it. So the next tool down here is the military symbol. So this is really useful for people who understand full military and sort of NATO symbology. So, you've got all these different options like friend, neutral, hostile that you can select. You've got some more options down here. And you can even go really in depth if you know everything that you kind of want to mark up. And if you use that symbol, you can see it there. And so just like the other ones, these always face the camera, which is really cool. You can actually change the size just like that. And you can drag these around at any time. So this is another tool that can be great for, say, military situations or combat situations. I personally don't use it a ton. I'm still learning a lot of it, so I'm really excited to see what other people do with that. But one I have used a lot is just the regular marker. So the default here you can see is a pin. You can of course change the colors and everything there, but you also have all of these other markers that you can use. So this can be great for, marking up a specific area. Maybe you have like a car park somewhere, you kind of want to place a marker there for the car park. Maybe you have a particular place that, has a cafe, you can kind of place that there and use that. And these are just really good basic little icons that you can place around your map, and it's still kind of got that 3D effect, which is really neat. One that I really love, and I did a lot of work on this as well, is the 3D markers. So if we pull this up there, you can see we have our default marker, which is a flag, and you've got a few basic markers here, such as this one, which is sort of a pin. You've got another style of a pin, and then you kind of got more ground markers like the target, another target. But if you hit the plus, you actually have the full array of 3D markers, and this includes different real life objects such as a car. So you can mark up and sort of add a car to your scene. You've got different things like a plane, which I think the plane's probably my favorite, which you can push up. You can use this to rotate as well. And then in here, you also have things like buildings, such as a house. You have things like the military objects, such as the jets, the tanks, and the tents. And so all of these can kind of be combined into your scene to give, especially more flat maps, a bit more 3D representation, a bit more depth. I really love seeing that these added to the scene, and I think, you know, where I've used them, they've really helped kind of make things stand out a bit more. And I think the plan in the future is definitely to continue adding more of these and trying to make it more give people more options to kind of represent different things that they want in their map. And you also have arrows there, which I love those arrows. So the next tool is just a text tool. So this is really handy, of course, to mark up something. So you can say this is where something happened. And all you have to do is hit apply changes, and you can see that that updates there. And so just like the other tools, you can style this however you want. If you want to change the color, we can do that. If we want to change the height, you actually see that the height comes off the map a little bit. And then you can choose the font size and make it nice and large. So that's definitely really good for marking up particular spots. And the other tool that is probably one of the more powerful tools is the canvas draw tool. So when you click this button, you return to that sort of 2D mode of your map. And if we zoom in here, you can see that we kind of got this airport over here. Now is where you can kind of draw onto your map directly. So if we use this first tool, you can kind of freehand a little annotation around it. And then within there, you've got all these color options, you've got thickness options. And then what you'll see is once we hit apply changes, that drawing that we've done on the map will actually show up over here. And so that can be really great to annotate different parts of your map where you want, and be able to kind of directly add to the map without it being something that's used in these tools. So I've used that a lot in my 3D maps, and I'm going to show some of those off. So let's close. And one of the first things I want to do before then is just let's go to the satellite tab. So of course you can view any map on Soar in 3D that's compatible. But of course, if you want to create a new map, maybe you want to view a different area of the world in 3D. And so anytime on Soar, you can just go to the satellite tab, you can click draw area, and you can drag that out over your preferred area. And this is going to let you see a bunch of different scenes from the latest satellite imagery. So you can see here, we've got a date from June 20th of this area. And once that's loaded, what we're actually going to be able to do is view that in 3D over here. And so you see, even just in 2D, you know, it's pretty interesting. You've got mountains and everything. But once we hit view in 3D, it just totally transforms the way that you can appreciate and understand the map. So let's give this a moment to load. And yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite features, is just literally exploring the world and seeing what these areas might look like in 3D. So there you go. You can see there's our map in 3D. That's a satellite view. And obviously this is up-to-date imagery. The imagery also goes back to, I think it's over 10 years as well. So we support Landsat and Sentinel. That works really well for viewing different dates and, you know, kind of seeing historical stuff as well as new stuff in 3D. So I love how that looks. So I have a question for you. David, what is your favorite area you've been viewing in 3D? Because I know I've been just kind of going around the globe and seeing any mountainous areas. One of mine is probably the Grand Canyon in America. I think that looks really impressive in 3D. But was there any particular that kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, Michael, you're right. Grand Canyon, Swiss Alps, anywhere where there's lots of mountains always looks good. But I am fairly boring, and my favorite place is actually Rottnest Island,
Ah,
of
yes.
all places. For when I'm developing, obviously being from WA,
Yeah.
it's my testing playground. I go there, have a look at it, and I find it's great because the terrain's not particularly high, but you can actually zoom right in and actually get a feel for the island itself. I mean, showing that picture there, you can see how powerful it actually is being able to see it in 3D.
Yeah, I mean, like, so you can see here, this is one of the maps I've made before, just of a sentinel image over Grand Canyon, and yeah, the depth you get is just incredible. What's really amazing is, if you go into these 3D options, you can actually exaggerate the elevation whenever you want. So the default is, I guess, closest to the accurate terrain, but you can stretch this up. If we go 1.5, it's gonna get even higher and deeper there. And it's just, yeah, it looks really incredible. And so what you can see here is I've just done some quick annotations over the top of this map. You can see different areas that might be, useful for hiking. You've got a little river down here from the Colorado River. We've got the Grand Canyon Village, which is this little area that has a bunch of, villagery next to it. And this is just a very quick example of the type of map that you can make. Um, you know, Something I think would be really fun is if people kind of document maybe their journeys or their travels around the world and recreate these more mountainous areas in 3D as a 3D map. So um, one thing you can do with this is, of course, you can save your project just like I did and view it and share it around, but you can also record and do 3D tours of your area as well. So I'm just going to show that off. So over here is the tour controls. And so once you have that open, you're going to be able to position your camera however you want for the first shot. So if we just kind of let's actually start at the top of this mountain. So we've got our shot set up there. All we have to do is hit add scene, and that's our first scene added. And then we just have to, just like a videographer, we just kind of have to think, what is our next shot from here going to be? So if we want to drag our shot out more into the canyon area and maybe tilt down, we can do that. And then we can add our scene 2. And so up here, you can see we're kind of developing this timeline. And if I drag through, we can see that transitioning from the first shot to the second shot. And this is something you can play and it will automatically kind of, pan through that. But you could get really deep into these tools. You can click on these individual shots and change the values for fly time, which is kind of how long it's going to take. So if we double this to 5,000 and then hit play, you can see that that will take a little bit longer and it'll be a bit of a slower shot. And then you can also change the pause time. So every time you go to the next scene, it will spend a little bit of time there before it goes to the next shot. One of the things that I do quite often is if you want just a completely smooth shot, you can change it to 0 so it doesn't pause at all. And basically, it's just going to go from that first shot directly into that second shot without any sort of tweening or transition. So I've been using these tools quite often recently. You might have seen the trailer for the 3D mode, and I actually made pretty much majority of that just using these tools. And it's been really fun to see other people use these and be able to share videos online. Because of course you can record this, you can just hit that record button and then press play. And it's going to export it as a MP4 video you can share anywhere you want. So yeah, I am a huge fan of this feature. Thank you very much, David, for adding it in because I think, as someone from a background in a lot of video editing, I think it just saves a lot of time having to go through and get these shots recorded and make it really nice and smooth. And it's a great little way to do a tour of your map. So yeah.
Yeah, Michael, just on that one, obviously, we are after feedback. We want people to sort of give us their feedback on how it's behaving, things they've come across, things that they think would be nice to have, because it's obviously in beta at the moment, and the concept's there. And so the tour itself's probably gone through about 6 renditions already. So what you're looking at now is the current. But that's doesn't mean it's not going to change. So in the top left there, share your feedback. Feel free to let us know what you actually think about it.
Yes,
Good.
yes. Please do. Yeah, like we want as much feedback as possible. Obviously anything in beta is going to be early days, and we're still currently working on this to add more features or make things, more accessible. But what we've got so far as people's thoughts, we're really excited to see where we can take this. And yeah, I think like just the tour controls itself, we've seen a lot of people have a lot of success with. So I'll just do this is another map I've made earlier, and you can see like this is a really fantastic map by someone on the platform of the elevation of one of the Hawaiian islands. And so I just took their let me exit out of that. I actually took the legend that was in the description of this map and placed it in the canvas drawer. So over here, you can see that that's actually just an image, which is something you can add over here. And so obviously, this canvas drawer, there's so many different tools. You've got arrows and circles and lines and polygons, but you can also add images at any time. And that can be great to give sort of further context to your 3D map. So I've just placed it over there and it appears like that. And then I've used our elevation markers to actually show the real height of these mountains. And so different areas where it's really red, you can see these are super, super tall mountains. But yeah, one of the things you can do with the 3D tour controls, as I said, is you can make multiple points. So if I quickly do our first shot as a zoom out, and then maybe I go to these mountains, we do 1, 2, 3, you can really quickly make these tour videos that focus on different parts of your map. And this was in what, like under 5 seconds that I've made this, and it's just super easy to be able to make these things and be able to export them and share them with people all around the world. So I'm a huge fan, and I'm really excited. But definitely, let us know your feedback on tour controls, on 3D, on any future requests that you have of this as well. So let's go to some of the other maps. So one of the great things with Soar is obviously we get so many different maps and images from all over the world from different sources. Some of those maps are actually really high quality maps that have really high density imagery. So this map over here is a very old map on Soar that was captured with a 30 centimeter satellite. So 30 centimeters means that every centimeter you kind of have every pixel of the image represents about 30 centimeters in the real world. So it's really, really high resolution. It's some of the highest resolution imagery you can get. And so I thought this was really interesting to be able to view this type of map, which you normally, even on Google, wouldn't see in this kind of quality, but be able to view it in 3D and kind of see the terrain, go up and down and see the sort of mountainous areas along here. So that's one thing that you can just enjoy exploring. Of course, if you have your own high resolution imagery or high quality maps, you can add them to the system and view them in 3D as well. So this one is just, I really love the different mountains over this area. And like I said, if you zoom in and you just let it load, you're kind of getting a lot of the quality there. And I think it just looks really great. So yeah, I'm really excited to see, if people add more maps that are high quality or have their own data, then that's going to be really great to view in 3D. So the next area is, obviously there's all sorts of maps on Soar. So we're not just talking about satellite images. You saw an example before of a vintage map from the 60s, but we've also seen people upload things like this one, which is a LiDAR map. And so LiDAR is really great for 3D mode because you're going to have the elevation. Usually LiDAR maps are showing elevation data anyway. So they're going to be in mountainous regions like this and show rivers and that type of stuff. And you can see that the different heights here represent the different colors. And I think this looks really great and just adds a different dimension to what you're kind of getting with that flat LiDAR map. You're going to be able to show it and represent it a bit better in 3D. So, if you have existing LiDAR maps, then that can be a great way to kind of share that as well. And then this was a great example of how you can use the exaggeration tools in here to actually make some of the more flatter maps really pop out. So what we can see here is a map of Lake Irma. Um, and so it looks pretty good, but it's fairly flat. And I know that a lot of these regions are actually quite mountainous. One of the reasons this looks flat is because it's such a large area, so um, you kind of have to exaggerate these heights to get the sort of depth that you're looking for. So if we pull this up to, let's say, 2.5, we're going to have it recalculate, and then you can start to see these mountains come through. And one of the things you can do to make sort of these mountains appear more vivid is you can adjust the time of day, and you'll kind of get those shadows from the mountains come through as well. So you can see just for those two little tweaks, we've seen this map really transform, and you can see the mountainous regions come through. You can see the area over here that's sort of like a little island. That's a lot more visible. And I think it just looks so cool being able to view a sort of, hand-drawn vintage map like this in 3D, explore it in 3D, and then overlay it over real terrain and how that looks. So yeah, that's definitely a huge tip that I would have for people who are kind of looking to get a bit more about larger areas and how they look. So I'm really, really excited about seeing what people do with that. Now, if we go to our next map, one thing I want to highlight as well is, in our satellite tab, you can, of course, view 3D imagery. You can get satellite imagery, but you can also create time lapses. And so that's been a really powerful tool that people have had to create things like this, where it's comparing two different dates and showing two different things. So you can see the dates up here, April 16th and April 24th. And I believe this is an area over Lebanon where people have spotted damage to these regions. So one of the restrictions that we had on satellite imagery for GIFs is you kind of had to annotate in different software. You had to annotate over the top yourself. But with 3D mode, it's actually quite easy to show and highlight different areas through the annotations in the Canvas Draw tool. So if you upload a GIF just like this, you can just draw over these, and the GIF will still play in the background. So it's really easy to kind of highlight different areas, and then you can hit apply changes and view that in 3D and share that as a video or take a screenshot and do whatever you want with it. So you can see here we've highlighted different areas that have changed over time. You can see visible difference. And yeah, that's just kind of been like a sort of secret little bonus of 3D mode, is that it's just easier to annotate over GIF maps. And I've really enjoyed seeing that come together.
Yeah, Michael.
Yes.
What I'd really love is if you could show people the sharing.
Yes, definitely.
So obviously how they can save it, they've got the opportunity to re-edit it, they can come back to it later and things like that. That'd be great if a person was able to actually see how that was done, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So you can see here, this was a map that I prepared, and this is just one of the vintage maps, but I've actually added my own labels here through the Canvas Draw. And so you can see that all of these maps that I've entered from my profile, they're all saved. So I can actually go through and, I can move this down here. And so that's just going to place that down there. And, once I've created any of my changes, All you have to do to save them is have at least 3 annotations. So in this case, I've got my 3 images that I've placed here, but this could be 3 markers, this could be 3 3D models, whatever you want. You just have to go down to Save 3D Project. And so in this case, this is a saved one. So let's actually go back and just quickly create one. So we'll do a satellite area of this. And let's see what's available. This one. And so it's really easy to create these 3D projects because, you just have to add a little bit of context by adding some annotations. That one's quite cloudy, so let's actually choose this date. And once you've saved your project, you're going to be able to share this with everyone just with a simple link. So people don't have to be registered or logged in or anything to view it. They're going to be able to explore all the annotations and the same satellite imagery and everything that you've done. So yeah, I really... Oh, is this going to load? Let's see. There we go. So, oh, that actually looks quite nice. So I place my 3 annotations and then I hit Save 3D Project. This is where you give your 3D project a title. So it's say my 3D map. And what's cool is you can actually set this to be public, which means anyone with the link can view the 3D project. You can set it to private, which means only you can see it, or invite only as well. So this is where you just add a email address or multiple email addresses to send it to. They'll get an email with the link, and they can only specifically view it. So if we just set that to public and save that, you can copy the 3D project link, or you can view this 3D project. So if we hit view, obviously it's gonna open the map as it was. Anyone viewing this won't see the annotation tools down here, but they will be able to view the map just as if you've created it yourself. And any of your maps that you create will be in your profile here in View My 3D Projects. So there's all mine that I've created before. And yeah, it's really, really easy to be able to create maps and share them. And yeah, you can see that that's saved and that's all come through there. So I think that's a pretty good little overview of 3D mode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really, as I said, really excited to see what people do with this. I think it's a very powerful tool that we're going to continue to add to, and hopefully, if you do have any thoughts, you do have any feedback, please do let us know. Just click the share your feedback button here, and you can fill out the form. It takes less than a minute. But yeah, David, thank you so much for joining me. I know, for the last 6 months or so, this has been quite a journey to actually work on and pull together. So I appreciate all your patience and your thoughts through it too. So yeah, do you have any final remarks before we leave?
No, just enjoy using it, people, and give us plenty of feedback so we can actually do something with that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. I'm really excited to show more in the future and keep you guys up to date. And yeah, until next time, bye.
Peace.